Well, speaking of wrestlers,
Oh
Jacobe
yes,
Smith.
you beat me to it.
Ah,
Yes. Please tell
yeah.
me. He looked good from the clips I saw. I did see some clips, dude.
He didn't just look good, he
Oh
looked
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
What is the next big wrestling event that's up?
I'm glad you asked. I'm leaving that in. I'm sorry. Put their number one ranking or number two ranking on the line. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pins and Punches. I'm your co-host, Tanner McHugh, aka TrueTan Wrestling, joined as always by my friend, Josh Derrick, the UFC guy, aka ASAP Joshy. And, I could ask how he's doing. I could get into the Steelers, which I'm sure he's not happy with. But you know what? We got a lot to talk about. Dude, I want to start with this question. Do you think Alex Pereira is the GOAT? Because I saw all over social media that people think he might be.
So there's a good argument for that. Now, I don't know if I'm totally on that train yet, but I think because a lot of people will call Khabib the GOAT because he retired undefeated and
Yeah,
was a
that's who most
champion.
people were comparing him to.
Yeah. So what will I say is Pereira higher than Habib on the GOAT list? In my opinion, yeah. And I don't think I watched enough of the back catalog to really give an accurate opinion on who I think the GOAT is. Because, the default answer is John Jones. That is what
Yeah, that's
the
what I always
president of the
thought.
company says. That's what a lot of people who are in the know, that's what they say. So I'm inclined to now. A lot of people say if you get busted for using performance enhancing drugs, you can't be the GOAT. So there's that argument too. So, you got to do what you got to do. But uh, I mean, he's definitely climbing that list. I mean, what he's accomplished in his 3 years in the UFC is pretty much unprecedented. So I saw some people saying he's literally speed running GOAT status, and I
Yeah,
agree with
that's
that.
funny, actually. I guess let me ask this. Why do you think he's just like going so fast through it and no one else really has? Like, what does he have compared to other people who are compared to the GOAT like this early on that they didn't have? Anything really, or it's just
So
luck
he
or
had a lot of experience in kickboxing prior to the UFC, and he is in his like late 30s. So he is on the older end of the spectrum for an MMA fighter, but he was used to fighting a lot in kickboxing. So it's really not much to him to keep bringing on these fights. And he gets hit. It's not like he takes no damage in the octagon, but he's not getting brutalized. So he doesn't have these injuries that he needs to rehab before his next fight. And when you see somebody like him with all that kickboxing experience and having a relatively late start in MMA, you want to get these fights in as soon as possible because the clock's ticking and Father Time, they say, is undefeated. So,
yeah.
he's trying to get these in before he has to hang up the gloves. And I don't know if we'll see him again before the end of the year, but I foresee 2025 being another active year for Pereira.
That's crazy. Yeah, like some of these stars, I feel like they don't fight a bunch because you don't know who to pair them up against, which is
Mm,
wild. And you even see you mentioned Father Time. You see it in college sports right now. The younger dudes are almost outperforming some of the older guys that are taking these fifth, 6 years. It's kind of wild. Um, so you think he's still gonna have more of an active? Who do you think his next fight would be? Did he call anyone out at the end of it?
I don't know if he called. I can't remember if he called anyone out specifically. I know a lot of people are saying they want to see him fight Aspinall. Um, no, listen. I don't want to see that fight because I like both guys, and I don't want to see either guy lose. I think Aspinall would win that
Are they
fight, of
that close
course.
in weight? Is he the weight
Well,
below Aspinall
yeah,
or
yeah,
like
he's light heavyweight, so he would have to beef up to
wow.
heavyweight. But I don't want to see that fight. I don't want to see either guy lose to one another, no matter who would win it. But I think his next fight, realistically, is the winner of Ankalaev and Rakic. I think they're fighting at 308, the Ilya Taporia Max Holloway card. I think.
That sounds
I
about
know.
right.
I know their fight is soon. But that I think is the light heavyweight title eliminator because Magomed Ankalaev really got shafted. He fought to a draw with Jan Blachowicz in a title fight, so nobody got the belt there. And then he just never got that opportunity to get another title at light heavyweight, and I think he deserves it. So if they give eight ranked Khalil Roundtree a title fight, the winner of Ankalaev and Rakic has to get that next light heavyweight title.
So you think that would be the guy who would get him next? The
Yeah,
winner of
whoever
that,
wins that
probably.
one is likely going to fight Pereira next for the belt.
So what do you think, compared to some weights, this weight's just deeper? Like that's why it's kind of easy to keep. Well, I guess let me frame it like this. It's probably easier to compare the GOAT if you compete more, which it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like he definitely has. So do you think his weight class is just historically better than some of the other weight classes, or they're
Well,
more even? I don't know.
Well, you have your list of heads of rising contenders at light heavyweight. Like you have Carlos Olberg is one of the big names in terms of rising contenders at light heavyweight. But there are just those guys that I mean, like, Khalil Roundtree's ranked eighth. So when you're having a ranked eighth guy fighting for the title, there's going to be some depth at the division. So I think that it's not as deep as you might think on the surface, but I think the cream of the crop at the division, it's a really I guess you could say
Would you say it's like top heavy? That's what
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
normally say like when I make like the best weight classes in NCAA, I normally list the weight class that's really deep, which doesn't have like your final boss level. And then
Mm,
there's the top heavyweights where there's your final boss, but there's probably like three, four dudes that are, because I think both of those scenarios, there's different ways to look at it. It's really hard to win this weight because it's so deep. So I got to beat a lot more better wrestlers than a weight class where there's like a final boss where he's just so tough to beat that
mm,
yeah, the route there is hard, but the final boss is just like near impossible, which
mm.
UFC, there's almost nothing that's impossible with the knockout. So, but
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I love about it, that puncher's chance. That's why we watch it. It's just, the you've seen some of the crazier upsets in UFC history, and that's what makes the sport fun.
I guess run me through the main fight of 307. Like how'd Pereira look? Obviously, I see he got a looks like a late knockout, round four.
Yeah,
So
round four.
got a late knockout. Just kind of run me through it, I guess.
So I scored, and I think most people scored the first 2 rounds for Khalil Roundtree. He came out and looked really good against like somebody who is really good. So I did also hear that Pereira was sick going into the fight. I heard he was on antibiotics, and they did show him coughing in the corner. So there may have been a little of fatigue.
Conspiracy. Oh, all right.
Yeah, but once the third round came around, I scored the third round for Pereira, and then once the fourth round started, it looked like a bloodthirsty predator just mauling its prey.
Wow.
And by the time he got that knockout, I mean, Roundtree went out on his shield. I mean, that guy is about as tough as they come. That guy, I mean, I don't know if you saw the picture of him, and
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
did.
I
Yeah.
don't think you could show that on YouTube, but it was a gnarly nose job, and his one eye, it just was non-existent. So yeah, but it was a competitive fight. Roundtree really looked like a world beater in the first 2 rounds, but then of course, once you take Pereira into those deep waters, especially the fourth round, I don't think Roundtree has ever been to a fourth round. I don't think if he's had a 5 round fight, I don't think it ever went into the fourth or fifth round. So I think that was unfamiliar territory for Roundtree. But yeah, I mean, that fourth round, if you're not an MMA fan and you want to become one, watch the fourth round of Pereira and Roundtree, and you'll be like, okay, I get the hype.
Why this is something I've always been really curious about. Obviously it's the main event and everything, but why do you think main cards like the main event is like the only one that goes 5 rounds? Because isn't it 3 rounds for every other fight? Maybe the
Yeah,
co-main sometimes will have 5 rounds or
the only time
something.
the co-main will have 5 rounds is if it's a championship fight.
Okay, so
So
what I guess why if I don't know, I'm big on consistency. That's me just the tournament part of me,
mhm.
of wrestling. Why do you think they do that?
Well, if every fight was 5 rounds, the cards would take
Oh
forever
yeah.
because there
Yeah.
are there are a lot of fights that go the distance. And in championship fights, you need the 5 rounds because this is it's the championship. You need as much time as possible to show like who deserves to win this fight. And you have fights like Usman versus Hamzat Chimaev that was a 3 round fight, and Hamzat won the fight. But had it been 5 rounds, it looked like Usman was gaining on him in that fight. And had it have been 5 rounds, Usman likely, I mean, I shouldn't say likely because who knows what would have happened in the fourth, fifth round, but it looked like it was trending in Usman's direction. So, there are times where that lack of the fourth and fifth round does make a difference. But I like that the main event is always 5 rounds because even if it's not a championship fight, if you're fighting in a main event, you have some level of status in the promotion. There's a reason you're on a main event, even if it's not a championship fighter, if it's just like a fight night. But what it does is it gives fighters who are at that level 5 round experience if it does go the distance. So these fighters that are gearing to be fighting for championships have that 5 round experience before they get to fight for a belt.
That's fair. And again, it's the wrestler in me that is a tournament purist and everything. Yeah, if anything, I wouldn't want them all to be five. Don't I don't get want
Yeah.
to like if anything, all three,
Mm-hmm.
just all 3 rounds. But I get it. Like, it's the main event and it makes it. Oh, it's pretty awesome. I
How
will
many
say,
rounds are in collegiate wrestling? Like how does the timing work there?
it's three. I almost said three 2 minute periods. That's how high school works. But it's first period's 3 minutes, then it goes 2 minutes, 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then overtime's a whole different beast. Overtime starts a 2 minute period and first score wins. So normally it's a takedown, or if someone had stalling already, they can get a point there. Then it goes your choice. So it used to be you pick top or bottom, and then whoever had the most riding time, so whoever controlled them the most on top would get the would get riding time would accumulate. And if the score is still tied, they go back on their feet, and then they go top bottom again. And if it's still tied, whoever has the most riding time wins on criteria.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it can be a long time. I think my teammate and I one time had so it's 7 minutes plus the three on our feet. That's 10. Then all the so like a 12 plus minute match. Because we tied on riding time, so we had to go into a
Mm.
third on our feet. Yeah, it was just it was a whole mess. So maybe that's why I like three
Mm-hmm.
rounds because of wrestling. Um, how what else stood out to you on the card? I see my girl Kayla Harrison, who I just found out about. She got a win.
Yes, she did. Yeah, and it was a little bit tougher than her last bout, but yeah, she got the win. I think what I noticed about her was that she has a little bit more to do in terms of rounding out the game if she's gonna beat some of the up and comers. Of course, she's a judoka, so like her basis is in judo. And she has what at this point
Did she throw
19.
her like he's
Yes,
predicted?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
let's go. All
Yeah,
right.
so I think what is she 18-1 now?
That's what this says.
Yeah,
Yes.
so she has 19 MMA fights. So, she's not short on MMA experience, but you could tell that there could be a little bit more like tightening up of the striking. Um but the one thing that I wanted to bring up was I forget if it was the last episode or the one previous where we talked about iffy judging and split decisions.
I think that was the last one.
Oh boy,
Oh no, I don't like where this is going.
it got pretty bad. So, in the co-main event, Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena, we had a split decision go the wrong way in a title fight. It was
Oh.
brutal to see that belt get wrapped around Juliana Pena because she didn't win the fight. I had it
Was
scored
it?
two.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna
uh,
ask if it was close, but you're getting into
Oh
it.
yeah, it was close. I had it scored 2 rounds or like 2 rounds each going into the fifth round. So it was whoever won the fifth round won the fight. I thought Raquel Pennington won the fifth round. Joe Rogan thought Raquel Pennington won the fifth round. DC echoed the same sentiment, and I think anybody who was watching the fight, except for the judge or except for two of the judges, um, thought that Raquel Pennington won the fifth round, but two judges gave the fifth round to Juliana Pena, and now she's the champion. You hate to see it, but even worse news, even though that was the one with the most severity because that was a title fight, there were three other split decisions on the card. And while two of them went to the rightful winner, they shouldn't have been split decisions.
Do they ever
Yasmin,
talk to these refs after? I know like it's not
no.
big to interview the refs, but I don't know. I feel like that'd be kind of good for the sport if good or bad. I mean, the ref says one wrong thing and he's lit up on social media. He or
I think they
she.
should be held accountable. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
that, and we kind of talked about that, but um, I don't know. That's just where my mind went. Like when there's a real controversial call, just going up to me like, hey, you don't have to be like, hey, that was dumb, but it's just like, what went into that decision, or why did you score it that way, or whatnot. I don't know. I don't know. I think there could be some leverage there for some kind of content or just reasoning. I mean, again, I feel like
yeah.
the people who hate are still going to hate it no matter what. But anyway.
Yeah, so we had Yasmin Lucinda or Lucindo. She won a split decision. Should not have been a split decision. Alexander Hernandez won a split decision against Austin Hubbard. Now Austin Hubbard likely won the third round. The whole fight was close, but Alexander Hernandez, I think if you were watching it, he won the first two rounds. The problem is that one judge scored it 30-27 for Austin Hubbard. No way. It just it and listen, if
He
they would
goes,
have scored
no
it
way.
29-28 for Austin Hubbard, okay, that's a little bit more acceptable. But to say that he won all three rounds, absolutely not. So again, it's not that bad because the rightful winner did win the fight, but to have a judge give it 30-27 the wrong way, I mean, we talked about that on the last one where it happened where a fighter won. Now, granted, Austin Hubbard, I think, won the third round, but like it just you hate to see stuff like that. And last but not least, that I'll bring up, Jose Aldo fought Mario Bautista,
Hmm.
and the fight was pretty unimpressive. Now, the thing is, Mario Bautista won a split decision, but all he did was shoot unsuccessful takedowns. He shot 10 takedowns, and Jose Aldo defended all of them, and most of them
And
were just stalling.
that's no points, right? Like it shouldn't be scored really, or
Well, the thing is that it doesn't really go off of like points. It does, like, if you get a
yeah, yeah,
takedown,
yeah.
the judges see that you got a takedown,
Yeah,
and
I knew
that's
that,
worth,
but like
yeah.
defending one or just taking doesn't really
Well, I'll say
go or
if you could win fights off of defending takedowns, then Jose Aldo should have won that fight absolutely because he defended all 10 takedowns. But the thing is, they were mostly like stalling takedowns. Like it's like I need to stall. I'm just going to shoot this takedown, and imagine you just shot eight and you go for the ninth, and none of them worked, and then you go for it again. It's just it makes for a not fun fight to watch, and then to see Jose Aldo lose that fight, it's like, well, it really could have gone either way because all the other guy was doing was shooting unsuccessful takedowns. And like to your point, does defending shouldn't defending 10 takedowns count for something?
yeah, I mean,
It's like so I thought it was funny that you brought up like does it happen a lot like these bad split decisions and I'm like it happens but it's not, and then you have four split decisions on the next card and two of them
uh
go the what I would think is the wrong way.
and it's crazy. For all the fans out there, I will eventually watch one of these UFC cards. It's just I don't know, sometimes the cards just don't line up. I mean, big wrestling events, I don't miss those. Big UFC events, Josh doesn't miss those. So, but eventually I will see some of these, but I don't know. I kind of like hearing your perspective on it and getting to visualize it that way too. So,
What is the next big wrestling event that's up?
I'm glad you asked because I kind of wanted to preview it a little bit. It's actually called Super 32. Have you ever heard of that before? I,
I just off of your YouTube shorts. So
okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's without a doubt the biggest in terms of like toughest, or if you want to get nationally recognized, in my opinion, the biggest high school wrestling tournament. It's not like the biggest by numbers by any means, but um and in hindsight, it's really not that old. Like it started a couple years before I got to high school. So like compared to a tournament like Ironman, which has been going on for decades now, huge tournament in Ohio, it's really not that old. I'm sure it got the name because of 32 is like a big bracket, essentially, like a perfect
Mm,
bracket. But some of these brackets have hundreds of kids in it now. And you just get some weight classes, it's literally 1 through 8, and then there's even more kids ranked in the country. So they only place top 8. So what I like the most about it is if you're a kid ranked top 20 in high school, you've probably never not placed at a tournament. when you
Mm,
really think about it. And now you're going to a tournament where all 20 guys who are ranked are going to be there. So someone's not going to place.
hmm.
And then there's dark horses and things along that line. So it's going to be an awesome event. Going to be
Who are
a
some
really good event.
who are some of the big names at the event, and who are some of the dark horses you think can make a real run?
It's kind of crazy. So I could talk about all 14. Some weights, I will say this just to get out of the way. Heavyweight, whoever wins heavyweight is really good. But this tournament, of all the weight classes, heavyweight gets hit the hardest just because of football. A lot of
Mm,
the best guys in the country play football too, before they go full-time wrestling, in college. So heavyweight normally isn't the best, but there's still some big ones. Some matches I'm really excited for. I feel like kind of how you talk about Aspinall every
mm.
I talk about Bo Bassett and Daniel
Yeah.
Zapata. So 144, Zapata was gonna go up to 150, but after losing to Bassett, he decided to stay at 144 for one more weekend. So we could see that one. And again, there's so many. This is what I love about who's number one is a lot of those dudes then go to Super 32 and put their
Mm,
number one ranking or number two ranking on the line. And these two dudes, I mean, I can't see anyone beating them on their way to facing each other again, but it's a 2 day tournament where they're going to get potentially 6 matches before they could see each other. So there's a lot of
mm,
room for error in there, but that's easily the biggest headline for me. 130, 113, I'm really excited for because we could get a who's number one rematch between the Oklahoma star Villasenero versus Munaredo. Big reason I'm really excited for these two is they both won age level medals. I feel like their match could go a lot differently than it did at Who's Number One. I don't think Munaredo was expecting it to go down the way it did against Villasenero. Plus, there's this dude, uh, Duna Sabona, who's won Fargo before, has a really cool story behind his name too. I feel like he could be like a huge. I mean, he's ranked sixth in the country, so don't
mhm,
get that twisted. But compared to Villasenero and Munaredo, I think he could be a real threat to them, and they're ranked number one and number two. So that's like a kind of a dark horse, but he's also ranked to place, so I wouldn't really call that a necessary dark horse there
mm,
either. Um, 106 I'm really excited for because madness always happens there. Normally there's like a 113 that's ranked really high that cuts to 106 and either does really well or cut too much weight and gets upset pretty early. 106 is also crazy because there's a lot of really good eighth graders who just aren't ready for high school wrestling just yet at that level. And then there's a lot of eighth graders that are ready to just take names and come out of nowhere and are known for the rest of their high school career. So 106, I'm always really excited for. Um, 132 and 138 are super like top heavy, like we mentioned. Like 138, there's a guy named Sergio Vega who's beat the number one guy Gorman twice now. And I'm just curious to see if anyone can beat this dude. Like,
mm.
I'd be more shocked if someone beat him than if he actually just won the tournament flat out, if that makes sense. Like, he's just on a mission right now. But again, I've said that about so many dudes heading into this tournament, and then they lose. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. It's just crazy. 120 is a big weight for you and me. PA boys are just running that weight. I
Oh
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, of the top four ranked guys coming, four from Pennsylvania. The two, four, and five all at the weight are from Pennsylvania. And
Huh.
the number five guy's a returning champion, and the number two is a Fargo champion. So it's going to be pretty wild. Pennsylvania just, you mentioned dark horses, and Pennsylvania, there will be some dude who we've never heard of from Pennsylvania that just makes the semis, and people are just going to be like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. Every year at this tournament, it happens. So I'm kind of curious to see who it is this year.
So what's the next big collegiate event?
So November 2nd or 1st, college tournaments start. So Clarion hosts, I wouldn't necessarily call it a big open, but normally whoever makes the finals there will be pretty interesting. Michigan State Open always has some pretty entertaining matches. the next big event is probably going to be in the Cliff Keen, which is normally right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, I
Hmm.
believe. It's called Cliff Keen Invitation, and that tournament's always huge brackets. Always, you can only send your starter. Normally at college opens, you could send like three guys per a weight class.
Hmm.
Where Cliff Keen, it's only your starter at that time, so it gets pretty intense. I've always wanted to go because the seating's pretty lax. Like you can kind of walk wherever you want to watch the event. So I always
Hmm.
wanted to go, but
Where's that at?
um, Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I know. Maybe one time we can plan it up. UFC fight and
Yeah.
Cliff Keen. That would
Hey,
honestly be
dude,
crazy.
it does not take much convincing to get me out to Vegas. So if we could plan it out, I would absolutely be down to go to that.
I've never been. I heard it's a lot better than what's at like what people think it is, I
Do you know
guess.
like what venue they hold it at?
Oh, I've heard it like 100 times, but I can't remember. It's a big convention center space, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Because I've been to the Vegas Convention Center, but I don't know if that's like where they hold stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. Where do you normally stay? Like, what hotel do
So
you stay at when you go?
so the first time we went, we stayed at the Luxor, and which was neat. They had a Titanic museum which had the big piece. And it was neat because I watched like a whole documentary about the big piece, which is like the biggest piece of the Titanic that is above water right now.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole mission to like get it above water. And I didn't know it was going to be in there, but when we're going in the hotel, we're like, oh look, a Titanic museum or whatever, and we go in. I'm like, oh shit, there's the big piece. I know all about this big ass piece of metal. But so
That's such
I
a
was
random thing to like come across too.
what I thought was like what I made the connection was the Luxor. The two main exhibits that they had was they had like bodies, like where they like use like a plastic resin to like mold real human muscle tissue to like show like
Okay.
the bodies exhibit.
I was really
I
confused when you were like
Yeah.
they had bodies. So I was
Well,
like,
yeah,
fuck.
I mean they are real human bodies,
Yeah.
which is kind of freaky, but I guess that makes sense because it's a pyramid, like like a tomb. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
literally like modern mummies. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then I guess Titanic is also kind of like a watery tomb. So maybe that's
Definitely
why
is. Yeah.
so maybe that's why it's
Oh
but
my
but
God. Got
but I
real
mean,
dark real quick.
yeah. So
All
but
because of Vegas, man. I
yeah.
told you. Maybe I'm not going. I'm not
Well,
going to Vegas anymore.
but I guess yeah, I haven't been to many other hotels there, but from what I mean, you walk through them though, because like all of them are like connected. All the
Yeah, yeah,
casinos,
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't even have to go outside. They're like you just walk through these tunnels and you're in a different casino. But from what I could tell, it's like you can't go wrong staying on the strip. You're gonna get that Vegas experience if you're at any of these major big ones. Or there is also a lot of stuff off strip that offers a lot of cool stuff. That I mean, you're just walking distance. You just go right there.
Are buffets still big? Like,
I didn't go to any. I didn't even.
but
They're a big thing in Vegas. I didn't even know that.
I guess they're not anymore. I was
I,
like buffets kind of died after COVID, but all
yeah.
I
I
heard
would.
was like when you go to Vegas, it's like gambling and buffets. So
Well, yeah. And you know what? The second time I went there, I placed one parlay on the fights. It didn't hit, of course. But I didn't gamble at all because the first time I went there, it was like, all right, my first time in Vegas. I got to gamble at a casino. I got it out of me, but it was like, I could think of a lot of other things I'd like to spend that money on, even here.
yeah.
Not counting like I just probably like to buy Blu-rays with that
That's
money.
my
But
perspective on gambling. I'm like, I could
yeah,
just, or let me get this out of the way. I do not gamble. I'm a
mm,
college coach, so I'm not allowed to gamble, but I
right,
never did before then. But that's
yeah,
kind of just my perspective. I'm like, I could use this to pay rent or anything, like anything
yeah.
better.
I used to sports bet for the fun of it, but then I realized it's like you're not going to win. Like the books always win,
Dude,
and
it's crazy how close because my dad does, and he'll complain about some of them, and he's like, it's just crazy that this was the line and this is how close it was, like how the game actually
mhm,
finished. It's like, wow, like, yeah, it is
yeah.
odd that they can guess that.
Yeah, the only time I'll gamble now is like I said, like last time I was in Vegas, I'll throw a parlay down on the fights that I'm going to because it's like I'm in
Yeah, it's
Vegas.
kind
Yeah,
of fun, more of a
right,
social
yeah.
thing about it.
exactly. Like I could throw $50 on a UFC parlay just to have a little bit of fun while I'm in Vegas. But other than that, I am a retired gambler. Yeah, no more of that for me. It's just I heard somebody say this. I can't remember who said it, but they said that sports betting takes advantage of the mathematically illiterate. And then once I heard that, I'm like, huh.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
that's
want to be
I'm
that.
out.
So yeah, no more for
I
me.
don't want to be compared to that. Oh man. I think it was Vince Vaughn's Hot Ones. He kind of put when you're in Vegas perfectly. He's like if you're gambling or obviously you're talking about sports betting, but if you're like at a table, he's like always plan to go like make reservations so you don't stay all night at a table. He's like, if
Mm,
you're going down to play a couple hands at 6, make reservations for 8. So you're not
mm,
there till 6 to 2 in the morning.
yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's like if I ever did do it, that's kind of good advice. So I
Yeah,
guess
I
so.
went to all the auto machines at the casino because I
Oh,
didn't want to like
dude.
go to a table and just
Dude,
do
I feel like
something
you would have been better with
wrong
a
and have everybody.
table. The machines, dude,
Oh
you
yeah,
can't trust them machines.
yeah, yeah. So maybe next time I'm in Vegas, maybe I'll go to a table just because I haven't had that experience yet. I'll play some blackjack or whatever. But yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do something wrong and then get like kicked out or like have people be mad at me at the table for fucking betting the
Nah.
wrong thing. So it's like because I hear there's like rules of blackjack. If you do the wrong call, the whole table will be mad at you. So I'm like, yeah, I'll stay away from that for now.
I heard Baccarat's the way to go. I think that's what it is. I heard about it from that dude who's all tatted up, who's kicked out of all the
Oh
casinos.
yeah,
And then I
Mickey.
heard yeah, and then I heard Dana White, that's what he plays.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's I don't know.
I
Like
think he's also banned from playing blackjack in any casino in Vegas because he's too good at it.
Dana White.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great. What a title. That's
Yeah,
kind of
right.
I'd wear that on my chest. I'd wear a
Yeah.
shirt, honestly.
And that's the one thing. It's like if you're good at table games, like you look at people like Dana White and Mickey, where it's like, okay, hey, it is possible to actually get good at table games to the point where you're using the math to your advantage. But
Yeah.
sports betting is one of those things where it's sports. Like it's so
Yeah,
unpredictable. That's why
exactly.
we like watching it. So just yeah, that's why I gave that one up. But I guess if I go back to Vegas, I'll hit the tables just to get
Just
the
to get that experience. Make
yeah.
reservations. Make
Yes.
reservations.
Me and Vince Vaughn have the same birthday, so that'll be my reminder. It's like, oh, yes, the Vince Vaughn rule. Gotta make.
That's thank God he had the same birthday as him, or he'd be in trouble. That's the only reason. But then again, I'm not allowed to gamble, but to transition back, uh, just to finish my recap, I guess, of Super
Mm,
32. Last thing I want to mention, I feel like you'd be interested in this, just a little bit of like not weight drama, but so I talked about Drew Correa on the last show. He kind of dominated the heavyweight number one. He's at 215 still, but the one dude who didn't get a match, he's bumping up to 215. So that is one time where the heavier guys might have one of the more interesting finals, which they don't always get at this event. So
mm,
Cade Ziola versus Drew Correa. I really hope we get that match. I think Drew Correa is going to be an awesome heavyweight. He's kind of small right now. But if he can get up to the weight, I mean, he can ride legs, he can score a lot of different ways on his feet. Cade Ziola is just skinny right now, I feel like, but is getting pretty big. But he's going to be a great heavyweight. So I think they're both guys who are bumping up and might destroy some bigger guys right now until they get to that college level. But they're both very similar. They're both like light heavyweights. So I'm crossing my fingers we get that match because I am
mm.
so excited to hopefully get it. And then the dude that beat Cade Ziola at Fargo, Lunnington, he will be there, but he'll be at 190. And I don't want to say he's a lock to win that because someone's gonna emerge. Again, whenever you say someone's a lock at Super 32, something happens, someone
Hmm.
emerges or something crazy. But I don't know who's gonna beat him at 190. But so 215, I'm really excited for. Normally, those bigger guys don't do too much for me at Super 32, but I'm excited to watch that one. And then every weight I didn't mention, it's not that there isn't going to be fireworks. It's just too many things to talk about. So
Hmm.
I'll wait till the next episode to really talk about that drama.
Well, speaking of wrestlers,
Oh
Jacobe
yes,
Smith.
you beat me to it.
Ah,
Yes. Please
yeah.
tell me. He looked good from the clips I saw. I did see some clips, dude.
He didn't just look good. He
Oh
looked
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. I like the
I
sound
mean,
of that.
it was pure domination. I mean, you could have scored at a 10-8. I think what did it go? I think it went to the second round. I think it went to the second round. But what I heard that really like made my ears perk up is that somebody said that DC said that this guy is a Habib type talent. And
Wow,
DC is not the person who's just going to throw that out on
wow.
anybody.
Holy
So,
cow.
so, when
Well, he
you,
might be a little biased. They wrestle at the same school, but
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, let's not. I
I
won't
mean,
take it
and
away. I won't take
DC's
that
friends
away.
with Habib. They wrestle. They train together. So it's like if he's going to put his that comparison on somebody on two levels, that's. I mean, Dana White said it
That
himself.
says
He
it
said
all.
this dude is an absolute freak of nature.
Did he get
Um,
signed?
yes, he did.
All right, let's
Yeah,
go.
and what he had the guy on the ground, he did utilize his wrestling a lot, and it was a kind of a weird stoppage. It was a good stoppage, but it looked weird because he elbowed him while he was on the ground, and it took the ref like a few seconds until he's like, oh, wait, no, this has to be over." Like if you watch it back, if you I could send you the finish. I have a clip of it, but um, if you watch him elbow, you just see him go like not
Limp.
out, but it's like, oh, he's not looking good. And I think the ref made a really good stoppage because that was not going to look any better. But yeah, he was one of the most impressive performances I've seen all season. And going into it, we talked about him on the episode, so I was excited for it. But when I saw him fight, it was like, oh yeah, this guy not only is ready for the UFC, but I think this guy could go on a really crazy run.
Oh, that's exciting. Before the call, you said this is the last week of it. So when does Pitch and Innie fight again? Man, Oklahoma State's repping.
Oh
Now that I'm
yeah.
thinking about it.
I don't know. It's because we have an episode tonight and then an episode next week, and then that'll be it. I haven't checked next week's lineup, but what I did see was tonight's episode. We have a battle of the undefeateds. I think one of the guys is from Portugal and the other guy's from Brazil. Uh, so we have two undefeated guys going up there, and then the fight that I'm most excited for is the return of the return of Cody Steele. So I don't know if I mentioned this at all on any of the previous episodes, but Cody Steele in week two, or no, not week two. No, that's a different fight. It was I forget what week it was, but Cody Steele was scheduled to fight a guy who is one of two losses on the current champion Alex Pereira's record. And the guy who Cody Steele was supposed to fight pulled out because he got too nervous,
Oh, really?
which never
Wait,
happens.
so this dude's on Contender Series?
Uh, Cody Steele or the guy who beat Pereira?
I guess both of them.
Yeah, so I forget what week it was, but the matchup was set. It was fight night, ready to go. Pereira lost his professional MMA debut to this guy. I can't remember his name. It's like it begins with an O. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But the loss came back in 2015, so it's an old fight.
Yeah.
But
Hell,
Pereira
that's
has
almost
that
10
loss.
years old. That's almost
Yeah,
10 years.
yeah.
Damn.
So Pereira lost his promotional or not promotional, his professional debut, and then lost to Adesanya in their MMA rematch. Those are his only two losses in his professional MMA
Wow.
career. So this guy who has a win over the current champion pulls out of the fight because he had a panic attack, got convinced to put the gloves back on and get wrapped up again, and then pulled out again. So I think Cody Steele had a lot to do with his opponent pulling out. I think Dana mentioned that as well. Like he said that the competition, Cody Steele, was a large part of the reason why the guy just basically chickened out. But it kind of worked in Cody's favor because in that fight, he was a minus 175 favorite. And in this one tonight, he's a minus 270.
Oof.
So on paper, he has a better matchup. But, sometimes odds don't mean anything. But his opponent now, I don't know his name, but his opponent fought his entire professional career in Cage Warriors, which is the UK's biggest promotion. It launched the careers of Bisping, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett,
Yeah.
Conor McGregor. A lot of major UFC names come through Cage Warriors. And so even though on paper Cody is a larger favorite than he was in his original matchup, the level of competition that his opponent was facing in Cage Warriors, it's the UK's biggest promotion. So
And they're both
he
undefeated, you said?
no his opponent I think is 6-2. Cody Steele is undefeated.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in the main event we have pretty low records. We mentioned this before. One of the guys is 2-1, and the other is 3-0. So both guys only have three professional fights. So it's another one of those examples of two guys relatively early in their professional careers in the main event of a contender series card, with potentially able to punch their ticket to the UFC at only four professional fights.
Oh, wow. Wow, so Jacoby got signed and he's I mean, he's got some fights, but he's pretty young into it.
I think he's 9-0 now.
Yeah, yeah, he's yeah,
Yeah.
9-0's it. And then wow, then those dudes coming up, they only got four, you said?
Yeah, yeah. Each well, right now they only have three. So this fight tonight will be both of their fourth professional fight.
Wow. How far in advance do they book the fights for Contender Series? Because I feel like whenever someone gets booked and I hear about it, it's like a couple weeks before, like way up. Like when I hear about a UFC fight, there's so much time before that actually
Mm.
happens. Where Contender Series, I feel like they get booked and then that episode's coming up really quick.
Yeah, so normally they have it pretty well in advance to give them a proper fight camp,
Okay.
especially for what is going to be the biggest fight of their career at that
Okay, so
point.
I'm just tripping.
Well, I mean, but hey,
I mean, Piccinini, he was a real rare one. He was
yeah,
like real last second. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna have last notice replacements, and that's the thing. It's like while you want to give these guys a good amount of time to prepare for the biggest fight of their career at that point, some guys it's like, hey, do you want to have the biggest fight of your career next? I mean, you only have a week,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
do you want
yeah.
it? And most fighters are going to be like, yeah, give me that opportunity.
So you would say like it seems like this Contender Series is a pretty big one, or the next one's a pretty big one, and even this one. So they probably plan it that way, right? Like, would you say episode one is probably great, then like it kind of plateaus a little bit, and then they start cranking up again, or are they all pretty? I mean,
Not
you're a huge fan, so you probably like
yeah,
all of them, but you get
yeah.
what I'm
So
saying?
what I see with it is that every card has at least one of those fights where it's like this guy has like somewhat of a story, like something that like for example, Cody Steele, was supposed to fight earlier on this season, and now like so now on this card, like he's that fighter that
Yeah.
we're waiting to see.
So has he ever fought on Contender Series, or has he only been like screwed out of fights
No, yeah,
so
that
far?
was he had his one
Oh
booked
man.
fight, and then it got pulled because his opponent
But
pulled out. They
everyone
even
knows
gave
this
him,
dude's a monster though, right?
yeah,
Like people
yeah.
are scared of him still. Wow,
Oh
that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
So,
Cool
what I
reputation.
wanted to mention was on the same card as Jacoby Smith, our boy Torres Finney got the contract. He got
Oh
his third win
wow.
on the Contender
Dude, what's
Series.
going on? I
Yeah.
mean, there's it can't be a coincidence. Whoever we
Yeah.
talk about, they just whoever I
So
mean, whoever you're prepping up is actually what's happening. But
well, and you know what? He got a record. He is the only fighter in Contender Series history to have three wins. There is other fighters that have been on the Contender Series three times, but they've lost at least one of them. But another, what might be a pretty hard record to beat is that Torres Finney has the triple crown in his three Contender Series appearances. He
wow.
won by submission, decision, and knockout. So he has all three ways to win a fight in his three Contender Series bouts.
Is that
So
what they
now
call a
he,
triple crown when you
well,
do?
Laura Sanko said it, but because it's the first time that it ever happened. So it's like, but it's a funny, like a fun fact that it's unlikely that if you're getting another Contender Series opportunity, like it's the first guy to ever win three times. And any guy who gets another shot, normally they lost and then they're getting another chance. But now Torres Fendi is carrying a 10-0 record going into the UFC. And I think he, like I said on the last episode, I think he has all the makings to be a fan favorite. Just his unorthodox frame, the way he fights, the way he promotes himself. I think, and he already has a training partner, Trevor Peak, in the UFC, so he has kind of that guy that he could bounce that UFC experience off of to kind of know what to expect. I mean, you can imagine how tall of a task it is to start a UFC career. I mean, start a mixed martial arts career at all is some, it's got to climb quite a few mountains to get to where you want to be. But I think Torres Finney has a lot of potential to make like a good name for himself in the UFC. I think he's a really marketable fighter.
How many who's fought the most on Contender Series? I feel like when you fight too much on it, it's almost a bad thing.
I don't
Because you
know
said
if
the one
there's
dude fought what, 3 times?
Yeah, so I don't know if there's ever been a four-time person on the Contender Series, but I know that Stephen Wynn, he fought three times on the Contender Series. I think he lost and then won and then didn't get a contract and then won and got a contract.
I was gonna say, if you lose on Contender Series, it's not like a done deal, probably. Um,
Yeah, no, and it's like if you lose and you looked like you sucked, then you're probably not going to get a call back. But if you fought a good fight, that's the motivation to fight a good fight, even if you're losing. If you
yeah, yeah,
show
yeah.
that you have what it takes, you're likely going to get a call back.
Yeah. How's the Halloween marathon going for you?
Ah, yeah. So I think what are we at? I think I watched eight horror movies and one non-horror. So only horror movies count towards the challenge. So it has to be 31 horror movies. But I ended up going to the movies to go see Joker Folie à Deux.
Oh, dude, I got keep going about the challenge. Save that because I'm definitely
Okay,
curious
yeah,
about
well,
it.
yeah,
But
we'll talk about that.
oh,
Um
yes, 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 yes.
did you see it?
I did not, but
Okay.
I've heard everyone and their mom's opinion about it.
Yeah. Uh yeah, we'll get into that. But so far the challenge started out with Final Exam from 1981. It's a super campy early 80s college campus college. Holy shit balls. Hold on. Oh,
I'm
let
leaving
me
that in. I'm sorry.
All right, well, leave this sip of water in too. Okay. So we started off the October horror movie challenge with a college campus slasher from 1981 called Final Exam. It's super campy, it's super low budget, low quality, and it's one of those slashers where there's a murder right in the beginning, and then you have to wait an hour for the killing spree to start. Like in that hour in between, it's just like a
Oh.
college movie where like people are like at school. So it's like it's not the best, but I've seen it before. It's been part of my collection for a while. It was one of the early like Blu-rays that I bought at FYE back at like in the mall.
Oh man.
Like so,
Good
I've had it
times
for a while.
there.
So yeah, it's a sentimental movie. So I thought it's a good way to kick off the month. The next film I watched has one of the best titles of a film I've ever heard in my life. It's called Naked Girl Murdered in the Park.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, it's a Italian
Wait, I
giallo.
saw your Snapchat review on this, but continue.
Yeah.
I had a major question about it.
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah, so it's a 1972 giallo, one of those late 60s, early 70s. The giallo genre was a major, I guess you could say, hit in Italy during that time. It's really like crime films, and sometimes they mix in supernatural stuff, sometimes they mix in slasher elements, but this one was more of just like a crime and crime film. And funny enough, uh, the film starts not with a naked girl murdered in the park, but a clothed man murdered in the park. And
Yep,
the only naked,
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
my like what?
yeah, yeah. So the title was a little misleading. There is a naked girl that's murdered, but she's murdered in her backyard. So
Do you think
you
it
know,
was translation issues? Because you said it
you
was
have to,
Italian, or
yeah.
do you think it was like they were trying to avoid expectations, trying to
I don't know
steer the wrong
what
way?
the story behind that is. You have to imagine it's something to do with the
It's
translation.
got yeah,
Yeah.
especially since like if a naked girl was not murdered, then I'd
Yeah.
say definitely translation or they were just trying to dupe the audience or something. But yeah, it's got to be translation.
So then next up we had Curfew from 1989. It's a super underground low key slasher from the late 80s. It was a good movie. The acting, like some of them, one guy in particular, like the main bad guy, he shined like he was a really good actor. But other than that, it was so underground that it never even got a US theatrical release. I think they said it only got a theatrical release in Asia
Oh,
somewhere. So it's super low key, but it's those type of movies that I like watching because they're so rare.
That's
So it's
like a
like,
super hidden gem. Yeah,
yeah,
we're
it's like a
yeah.
rare experience. And then we have the next one. It was Flesh Freaks from 2000.
I was gonna say the first three all sound like they could be in the same universe, like Curfew, College Campus, Naked Girl in the Park. They all sound like they could be very similar. Sounds like
Yeah,
they were all different in their own ways, but now this one does
yeah.
not.
So Flesh Freaks was a independent, I mean, it was a micro budget film, and it was something
Micro
that,
budget.
yeah,
All
micro
right.
budget,
All
yeah.
right.
So it was one of those things where you you watch it and you're like, this is something I would see on YouTube, not on a Blu-ray release.
Oh
But I talked,
man.
and the filmmaker, he was only 18 or 19 years old at the time. So what it is in terms of, like, if you're thinking of a film made on pretty much no money by an 18, 19-year old, when you take that into account, it's not horrible. I mean, like, the quality of the film is bad. It looks like a YouTube, like a feature length YouTube movie that a teenager would make.
Yeah.
But when you take that into account, it's a pretty decent watch. And I talked to the filmmaker about him getting it on Blu-ray, and he said Saturn's Core, which is affiliated with Vinegar Syndrome, a Blu-ray label, they reached out to him about getting a Blu-ray release for the film.
Where
So
was it?
there,
Where did he release it before? Like where was it out?
I didn't talk to him about that, but I don't know. It was probably
Because
just
they had
shown
to
at,
have
like,
seen it if
yeah,
they asked
yeah,
them to post
right.
it or
I
publish it.
I thought that too. I'll have to ask him about it if I
Dude,
get
let's
the
get a
chance.
oh, that could be our first guest.
Yeah, let's get it. I think his name's Connell Pendergast.
So wait, so how old is that dude now? He was
So if
18 or
you
19 when he made it?
Yeah, so that movie was from 2000, so add 24 years. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
it's
Oh, all
probably
right.
in his,
Yeah, dude, that's he's definitely got to be the first one.
yeah.
Can't of course it can't be an MMA guy or a wrestling guy. It's got to
Yeah.
be some crazy movie kid who has he made anything since? What's the
Yeah,
movie called again?
Flesh Freaks.
Flesh Freaks. Has he made anything since?
So he made another feature film in 2003 called Kill Them and Eat Them. I haven't seen it yet,
I
but
think
it's
this dude's got
on,
some. Did he write these too?
I believe so. I don't
Damn.
know, but I think so. Yeah, I mean, you would imagine. I
Yeah.
think he did. But they have that other feature film on the Blu-ray for Flesh Freaks. So I'm planning on watching that before the end of the month. Um, but after after Flesh Freaks, that's when I watched Joker. I watched Joker the same night. Watched Flesh
What
Freaks and
a
then went to the
fucking
movies.
night.
Yeah. So, but before we get into Joker, I'll just round out the last movies of the week. We had The Initiation of Sarah from 1978, which was a made-for-TV Carrie ripoff. You're familiar with Carrie, like the film
Yeah,
Carrie
yeah,
from
yeah.
'76. It's just a Carrie ripoff. It was all right. It was like a sorority theme though.
Oh, so
Um,
college Carrie
Right.
and
Yeah.
not as
College
good.
carry. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
And then next up from the same year, 1978, we had Killer's Delight, which was originally called The Sport Killer. It was a proto slasher from the late 70s that was based on the crimes of Ted Bundy.
Oh,
So it was a
okay.
pretty, yeah, and the transfer looked really good, like in terms of the like the Blu-ray quality, because sometimes some of these old movies, if you don't have the original negatives, or
They
if
just
they're
slap them
damaged in
on
any
to a
way,
Blu-ray and it just
it
looks like
might.
weird.
Right, yeah, but the transfer looked awesome in this one.
Oh, that's nice.
And then after that, we had Attack of the 50-Foot Woman from 1958.
Yeah.
So finally got to
That's the
watch that film.
background.
Yep.
Was it everything you ever imagined?
uh, I mean, it was a B movie from the late 50s. So is it like it's nothing
Yeah.
crazy, but in terms of, I mean, it's only an hour and 6 minutes, so it's a really quick watch. The effects are bad, but what do you expect?
Yeah.
It's
Comes
a
with the
B movie from the
territory.
50s, yeah. So, but it really enjoyable, just one of those really charming sci-fi horror films from the late 50s. And then last night we rounded out the first week of October with this really underground mid 70s film, The Love Butcher from 1975,
I wonder
another
what he
proto
loves.
slasher. Yeah, it was about a guy with a split personality. One is like a crippled gardener who just is he's harmless. But then when he goes home, he puts on a wig, stops being crippled, and then becomes this womanizer who kills the women that he
That's Psycho,
seduces.
dude. That's like
Yeah.
someone's version of Psycho. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, it was a good movie. It was another one of those hidden gems. I thought it had a good premise and it looked good. So I was pretty satisfied with the first week of October. I'm looking forward to the next week. A lot of these were like game time decisions, like what am I gonna watch tonight?
Yeah. Dude, I'll give you this. A lot of these people who do this, who I feel like would do a similar challenge, they do your, and I'm sure you will watch Halloween or some other movies that you always watch, but I will give you this. When I see on Snapchat you watching some of these movies, I always go, where did he find this? So the fact that you're not only watching movies you've never seen before, but you're watching a lot of movies that I don't think many people have ever seen
Right?
before
Yeah.
or haven't seen in a while. I mean, that's props to you, man, because I don't know if I could do that, but I
I
love it.
appreciate
I
it.
love it, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, we might get our first podcast guest out of it, so who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
When did you talk to him? Like right
Just
after, like this week?
yeah, just the other day after I watched the movie, because I was looking into like who made this, like on some of the apps, like what's going on, and then I saw when I looked it up, he like posted about the Blu-ray release on his Instagram, and then
Oh,
I just
okay.
DM'd him on Instagram asking
So
about
it's
like
pretty recent, right? Or was it
uh
like a post from a while ago?
no, I think it was relative. It may if anything, it might have been from last year,
Oh,
but yeah, it was
wow.
relatively recently. Yeah,
Wow.
he
Well,
said
good
he
for
said
him.
that
Glad he's
yeah.
getting, that's good. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, imagine making a movie when you're in your late teens, and then a Blu-ray boutique label wants to like put it out,
Yeah, I
and,
know.
and the packaging was great. The slipcover looked awesome. It
So did
was
you have any idea, like, were you like, did you go into that movie totally blind? Like,
totally blind. Yeah, bought it
oh,
off the
that's,
cover. Just
oh,
I
that's
saw the
awesome.
cover, saw the title. I'm like, ah, yeah, Flesh
Yeah,
Freaks. Let's
yeah,
do it.
that, yo, Flesh Freaks.
Yeah, I didn't know what
Um,
year it was from. I didn't know anything about it other than the title and the cover of the
Props to
Blu-ray.
you, dude. Most people would really dive into it. But dude, tell me about this Joker movie, man. I'm probably still gonna eventually see it, but like a lot of people, it's probably delayed on when I'm gonna see it now
hmm
instead of in theaters. But um, is it really as bad as everyone's saying it is?
So it was uh it was uniquely bad. In terms of when a film is acted as well as that film was acted, it's hard to call it bad because the
So the
the the,
acting was
the
good.
acting was great. Joaquin Phoenix killed it. Lady Gaga killed it. Even the musical numbers were great. I enjoyed them, an aspect that I didn't think I was going to enjoy, and then I ended up enjoying it. That was like one of the highlights of the film. Another highlight.
The musicals
Oh
or the
yeah,
musical
the
numbers?
musical
Okay.
numbers were great. I loved it. I loved
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like those scenes. Visually, the film was great. It looked good.
From
A lot
trailers,
of
yeah, it looks
yeah,
beautiful.
like some of the shots, some of like it and so when you have all those things going for it, it's a musical where the musical numbers were good. The performances were good. The visuals were good. All these things in its favor, and it's still bad.
Yeah,
It
what happened?
it was a chore to sit through.
That's what
And
I'm
this
hearing. Yeah, it's
this
just
is coming
like,
from
yeah,
somebody who I could watch a 3 hour period piece from, the 1940s and love it.
that actually does go a long way. Yeah.
So I'm the type of person who loved Barry Lyndon. I loved Barry Lyndon. That's a 3+ hour period piece about Victorian era England or something. It's so when you have a movie like this that's not even 3 hours long, I think it's like 2 hours and 16 minutes or something like that. Uh, when you have a movie that, it's over 2 hours, but it's not crazy. It's not like a crazy runtime. It was such a bore. It felt like nothing happened. You watch like, and
That's a
especially if
long
you're
time for nothing to happen.
right,
Two
right,
hours
and
and 16 something minutes.
like you could even watch a movie like Anatomy of a Murder, from I think 1959, I want to say. It's a black and
Anatomy of a
white.
Murder. That's a
Oh
good
yeah,
title.
great. Otto Preminger movie, great film. Um, that's a courtroom drama. A black and white dialogue driven courtroom drama that I could sit down and love every single second of. This film tried to be a musical, succeeded on a certain level, and then it tried to be a courtroom drama and failed. I mean, it was one of those movies where I went into it wanting to like it because I loved the first film.
Yeah,
And it
like
was
many.
very early on that I'm like, and again, I'm not like just going into doom and gloom mode, like, I don't like this already. Like, I'm trying to like it. I'm trying to watch it. And again, the musical numbers are like keeping me with it. The visuals are keeping me with it. The performances are keeping me with it. Like, I'm like, okay, okay, it has
That's good
redeeming
at least.
qualities.
Yeah.
Like I'm like convincing myself to like part of it while I'm watching it. But then after it was over, it was like, wow, that was just not good. And, a lot of people were saying it's an unnecessary sequel. I agree. Joker, like the first film, the 2019 film, that should have been a standalone.
Yeah, I didn't even think like Joaquin Phoenix, I thought said he was never gonna do a sequel, and
I
then
think even the director said they weren't going to
yeah,
do
I
a
don't like
sequel.
yeah.
And it's one of those things where I was excited for it because I like the Joker film so much that it's like, okay, if they're going to continue that story, I'm interested. I want to see what happens next if it's going to exist. And I'm I like to say that I would rather any movie exist rather than not exist. I mean, it sounds kind of dumb, but what I'm saying is like, no matter how bad a movie is, even if it's one of the worst films I've ever seen, which we will get to eventually, the worst film I've ever seen. I know we teased that in the first episode, but we'll keep that in the bank for a while, maybe like the year end review. Um, but no matter even that film, it's like, okay, it sucked, it was horrible, but I'm glad it exists
Yeah, we have the
because
same premise on that. We say
right,
that a lot. Like it was
this
someone's vision and a lot of people put a lot of work into it, but
yes,
movies
yeah,
still suck
yeah.
sometimes.
So, but here's what I'll say: go see it, and even if you don't go to the theaters to see it, stream it, get the Blu-ray or whatever. Like, watch it. It is. I like to say that every single film is worth one watch. Everyone. So if you were a fan of the Joker film, watch it. And who knows, you might like it. You know, just because there's a popular opinion about a film doesn't mean you're going to feel the same way. There's a good chance you might if it's like really popular, if it's like uh, a commonly held opinion from a bunch of people. There's a chance that you might echo those sentiments, but that's why I don't like looking at reviews of films or anything about it. Like, even if they're spoiler free, I don't want to see what other people thought of the film before I see it. I need to make my own opinions of it before I could like take in others with any level of like understanding.
Everyone's ratings can be so different. Like a scale out of 10 is so different than like a
Mm,
Rotten Tomato. Like they're just
right.
every rating system's so different. Like I always think it's ridiculous to rate a movie out of five. Like some
I
like some movies are fives for totally different reasons than others.
right.
It's just
Yeah.
weird.
Exactly. I totally stopped rating films. I don't do it anymore. I don't do out of
Oh,
10.
oh yeah, you used to, right?
Yep.
On
Yeah.
Snapchat. Now you
Yep.
just kind of rank them like one to like your favorite
Yeah,
to
I'll
least
I'll
favorite.
rank films like
Yeah, yeah,
compared to
yeah.
other films. And again, that's not to say that necessarily this film that ranked higher is a better film than one below it. I just liked it more. You
Yeah,
know,
that's a big difference. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and like I can't stress enough that when you see like if you see a ranked list of my films, it's my preference. It does not mean that this film is better than the other one in the grand
Yeah,
objective scheme of
absolutely.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what's the this is the 8th of October for anyone who's curious that we're recording this. What's next to end the podcast on?
So again, a lot of the movies that I watch, a lot of them are game time decisions. I
No better
mentioned
time than on the
right,
pod to
yeah.
make a game time decision.
All right, so I'm likely gonna watch two films tomorrow.
Ooh.
So I'm
Oh, that's right, because
thinking,
contender series.
yeah, so no movie tonight. But as long as I get my 31 in for the month, the challenge is complete. What I'm, oh, you know what? You know what it might be? I'm going to see Terrifier 3 this weekend. So I might just rewatch
Oh,
Terrifier 1 and 2. Get another
oh,
trilogy in.
oh, good movie. Good movie. All right. So before I guess we recap everything, dude, what do you think of Terrifier 2? I like the first one. I think the second one does some weird things, I guess, but I
Mm.
don't know. For what that series is, I like them both a lot.
I'm a huge fan of the Terrifier franchise because it propelled Art the Clown into like that level of you have
Oh
Mike
yeah.
Myers, you have Jason, you have Freddy, you have
He's
Leatherface.
like, yeah, we didn't like obviously we know them, but he's like our
Yeah,
generation. Like
he
he's
is.
some
He's
which is
our
cool to have. I
generation's
mean, can you
slasher
imagine
villain.
having all those slashers back when they
Yeah,
first came out in your
yeah.
generation? But yeah,
And
it's
what
cool.
what makes me even more happy about the franchise is the first film was made on $35,000, and
Oh,
for
I know,
anybody who
dude.
doesn't know about film budgets, that is peanuts. That is nothing to
Especially
make a
for some of the things they did.
right.
Really.
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah. I
some
mean, the
graphic
effects.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And but that was the thing. They knew where to allocate that money. They're like, if we're gonna make a film off 35 grand, how do we make people want to watch it? Because a lot of independent films, like the only people who are gonna watch it are the friends and family of the cast and crew. That's it. So to have that low of a budget and make a cult hit, an absolute hit, a hit enough that the second film had a $250,000 budget and made, I think, $15 million or
Oh
something
yeah.
like that on a
Yeah.
$250,000
Even if it
budget.
wasn't great, people it was gonna
Right.
people just needed to see it for
And,
that
you know,
wow
there are some
factor.
scenes in Terrifier 2 that are some of the most gruesome and disgusting scenes I've ever seen. And I watched a lot of bloody,
Gnarly
disgusting
shit,
films. I
dude.
watch a lot of gore flicks. They're some of my favorite movies to watch just because I appreciate the special effects more than anything else. But Terrifier 2, the bedroom scene likely takes the cake for one of the grossest things I've ever seen in a movie ever. So I'm excited. And I don't know if you heard, but Terrifier 3, they said that early screenings, the opening scene is so gross that it had people throwing up
Yeah, I
and
saw
walking
this,
out of the theater.
which made
So
me excited, which
yeah,
is we it's
I
kind
am
of
so
weird, but
excited for it. But yeah, so just to recap, that's why I love Terrifier. Not only is he our generation slasher villain, but the humble beginnings of such a low budget film becoming such a phenomenal hit. I just respect Damien Leone more, or Leone, I don't know how to say his last name, but I respect him more than anything else for making such a phenomenal cult hit out of such little means.
yeah, he owns it. He just owns it too, which is
That's
awesome.
that's
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 what you
even
want.
better.
That's
Yeah.
what you want. But yeah, everybody, I think we did it. Make sure to stay tuned for a wrestling breaking news short where I'll rapid fire through Super 32 again before it happens this weekend. Contender Series is coming to an end, but sounds like there's going to be some awesome fights to recap. And even if you don't like any of that on the next pod, we'll be talking Terrifier 3, it sounds like. So we
Yes,
got
sir.
something to talk about. But Josh, you got anything before we say goodbye?
No, I think that's about it. I'm about to get ready for Contender Series, and yeah, we're rocking and rolling. Episode 3 is in the books.
Heck yeah. Well, talk to you later, Josh. See you, everybody.
See you around, man.